Welcome to today's Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're joining me because we're tackling a massively high-stakes topic today for professional firms across the UK, and that is WhatsApp compliance. Look, if you work in property, financial services, or really any regulated sector, you already know the deal. Your clients want to reach you on WhatsApp. They expect it. But the way most businesses are currently handling it, well, it's creating an absolute compliance minefield. So today, we're going to visually break down exactly how you can tame this wild west of communications and actually protect your firm. Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to picture this nightmare scenario for a second. A subject access request, or SAR, suddenly lands on your compliance officer's desk. The clock immediately starts ticking. And failure to comply can result in ICO fines of up to 4% of your firm's turnover. But here's the problem. The client's communications aren't sitting neatly in a central file. No, they're scattered across your negotiators and mortgage advisors' personal phones, buried in months of mixed personal and business group chats. With data scattered literally everywhere and no centralized way to pull it together before the legal deadline, honestly, could your firm actually survive that audit? This chaos creates what we call the data scatter problem. As you can see here, when your staff use personal or unmanaged WhatsApp accounts, those crucial client conversations just get trapped inside individual devices. Your firm has absolutely zero control over them. And this rogue employee messaging leads to huge blind spots. We're talking missed leads because a colleague can't see what was promised, missing client history in your CRM, and, crucially, failed SAR deadlines purely because that data is functionally unretrievable at a firm-wide level. To solve this, here is our roadmap for today's Explainer. We're going to define the compliance nightmare, bust a major myth by comparing the three versions of WhatsApp, introduce you to the centralized MSG box switchboard, explore CRM audit trails, and finally look at how to scale all of this compliantly. All right, let's get into part one, the WhatsApp compliance nightmare. Let's look at a real-world example from our source material. There were two large London estate agents who got so overwhelmed they nearly abandoned WhatsApp entirely because of unmanageable SARs. Both firms were facing this incredibly common crisis. But the major takeaway here is this. Abandoning WhatsApp is not the fix. Your clients demand it. Banning it just drives the behavior underground, which is even worse. The real issue isn't the app itself. It's simply which version of the channel your business is running. To fix the compliance nightmare, you just have to fix the underlying infrastructure. Which leads us perfectly into part two. Three versions of WhatsApp. Okay, this is a crucial myth-busting moment. Take a look at the massive gap between those first two columns and the third. The personal app and even the free business app are fundamentally flawed for regulated firms. Why? Because they completely lack centralized control. They fail SAR compliance right out of the gate, and they offer zero true CRM integration. It's only that third column, the WhatsApp business platform, which used to be known as the API, that actually routes all conversations through a centralized system. It is literally the only version built for regulated business use. So, moving on to part three, the centralized MSG box switchboard. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how you actually access that business platform. Designed by Stitch, this message box software essentially acts exactly like an old-school traditional telephone switchboard. You've got the shared WhatsApp inbox alongside baked-in GDPR compliance and CRM connectivity. It basically pulls all those hidden conversations off personal phones and brings them right into one governed, visible environment. To put that into perspective, just think about the operational scale for a second. If you have, say, a group of 15 offices with 100 users running WhatsApp on separate personal phones, well, you have 100 individual compliance risks walking around. But if you bring those 100 users under one governed system, which our source mentions was actually done successfully for a multi-branch firm, you instantly achieve GDPR compliance at scale. The risk just evaporates because the firm is finally back in control. Let's dive into the mechanics of that in part four, audit trails and CRM. In the context of the WhatsApp business platform, an audit trail isn't just some corporate buzzword. As you can see defined here, it is a highly structured exportable record. If the ICO ever comes knocking on your door, you can easily export a secure CSV file, and that file shows not just what was said to the client, but exactly who owned that conversation and precisely when responsibility for it changed hands between your staff members. So here's how that builds a compliant workflow in practice. Walk through this message lifecycle with me. First, a customer initiates contact, maybe from a website widget. Then, that chat is routed centrally. Next, a human agent steps in with full context of the situation. And crucially, step 4, the entire history logs directly into your CRM. Stitch integrates seamlessly with major systems like Reapit or Microsoft Dynamics. Actually, through a really handy Chrome extension, your staff can view chat history and send templates without ever having to leave their CRM screen. Another incredibly powerful layer here is automation. Before a human even takes over the chat, virtual assistant bots can prompt customers and pre-qualify leads. And because everything is happening on the business platform, this automated journey captures the complete history. It doesn't matter if the client replies with a text, a photo, or even a voice note, it's all captured as a neat data point and logged for compliance way before your human agent even says hello. Finally, let's look at part 5, scaling compliantly with Stitch. So the crucial point is that Meta's own rules actually enforce compliance for you. You cannot freely spam clients. There's just no way to do it. All outbound contact has to use pre-approved templates, which totally prevents indiscriminate marketing. Once a customer does reply, you then get a 24-hour window for free-form chatting. And even groups are strictly limited to just 8 people on the business platform, as opposed to the 256 you get on the consumer app. These constraints are absolutely massive advantages for compliance officers who want to lock down unauthorized communications. Now, I know what you're thinking. Let's talk about budget. If you're a finance director, you obviously want clear, predictable pricing. The starting monthly cost per branch is just £99 for a basic shared mBox license. If you want the whole shebang, a full setup with agent assist automation, it typically totals around £175 per branch. And critically, this is all billed cleanly in sterling, completely removing the headache of any currency risk. Breaking those costs down just a bit further, you can see how highly scalable this model is. The initial setup fee is £295 for the first branch, and then it drops to just £70 for additional ones. And Meta's conversation fees are surprisingly minimal, usually sitting between £3 and £15 a month per branch. It's an incredibly predictable model. It ensures you get robust infrastructure that doesn't break the bank, all while saving you from those massive regulatory fines down the road. I want to pause on this quote pulled straight from our source material. Compliance officers evaluating a vendor should treat the SAR handling question as the first test, not an afterthought. Buying generic software just isn't enough anymore. You need infrastructure that is purpose-built and configured for your specific regulatory realities. Centralized messaging, rigorous audit trails, and deep CRM integration. Those are your ultimate safeguards. Which leaves us with one final pretty provocative thought from our source material. Will you wait for a subject access request to completely expose the massive risks hiding on your employees' personal phones? Or will you take control today, centralize your data, and look into booking a Stitch demo? The technology is absolutely there to make WhatsApp a powerful, fully compliant tool for your firm. Thank you so much for joining me to unpack this explainer today, and I'll catch you in the next one.